in the context of Jane, who's had a baby and has obviously chosen to focus on bringing up her son, but she has all these skills and she's had all this great experience that she could add to companies, particularly in terms of events, but she's done lots of different things. How do you encapsulate that? And what I said is much easier for somebody else to sell you than it is for you to sell yourself. That's where the sort of, and I really do believe that. I think it's much easier for me to sell anybody here than it is for me to sell myself. Least of all because I can't remember what I did last week, never mind what I did 10 years ago. So I've met Jane and Emma. We just started talking, didn't we? And I know you do project management as well, but we didn't get to that. But I know that Liz is a expert in writing about gardens and plants, and I have a feeling that actually there's more to Liz than she's letting on. So no, I mean she was, you know, she was quite self-deprecating in that respect. She didn't want to talk, but I know that that's a whole area which, you know, I mean Darwin, for example, did a lot of his work on evolution, just on plants, and so it's a huge area.
Where did the snail go to, as we're talking about dog?
Out of the way.
So that's what I learned when we were just talking then, so it's a little bit premature for me to tell. We were talking about tennis, weren't we? But I think that's one of the great things about doing this. You don't have to just talk about yourself and what you do, and you can talk about Roman snail. Did I step downstairs?
No, he's over there.
You're making me feel guilty. I'm not a Janist either. I just felt really. Anyway, so that's what I found out. So.
You'd be very good person to write a will. You moved the snail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So Sue, what have you learnt about somebody? Just pick on anyone.
Well, I haven't managed to speak to everybody today. I've spent a little time talking with Sandra, and talking about this sort of business coaching and personal coaching. I think as well, a lot of it comes into it about the ideas of time management and sort of problem solving within an office if you've got employees that aren't quite performing the way that they want to perform. But actually I'm sort of wondering where the problem lies sometimes. Is it with actually the manager as well? So that was really interesting to have a little chat about that, and enjoyed that. I've spoken to Alexandra a couple of times. We've spoken before, and I've seen some of her videos and her the idea about and articles and this whole idea of sort of the natural power movements and the crab walking and really enjoy those, and I think more people should take that on board.
Thank you. Alexandra.
Well, I talked a lot with Sue today, and the last time. So that kind of, she makes me think about my parents don't have a will. I'm the only child, you know, but you know. So when I go and see them, I'm gonna ask them, "Do you have a will?" They're kind of gonna actually. I talked a little bit.
Yes, they really are.
I talked a little bit with Liz, and I did the talking because we were going uphill. So I gave her some tips on how to make walking a bit more efficient and keep the posture while she walks. And by the way, if you want, I can give you a lot of tips on that.
Going downhill would be really helpful.
Yeah,
really helpful.
It's not very well.
It's the knees.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, I mean, if you form a circle around me, then I can talk about it until tomorrow. And then I just started talking with Jane. I don't know what we were talking about.
We just started, didn't we?
Yeah, just like we're talking about rain.
Oh, I know, it was about where you actually do your coaching. Can you coach
Oh,
here?
where I'm doing coaching.
license.
So, we were talking about licenses and
For Hyde Park.
but for Hyde Park, but then they're not needed here. So we just started talking.
Jane, it gets harder as you go along because they've taken some of the
I spent most of the walk uphill talking with Paul, and as I said earlier, trying to get Paul to talk because I couldn't speak. But I learned that whilst Paul said he was a
crowdfunding specialist.
Actually, he's done loads of things, and he's also an event specialist, and he's done festivals and huge events, and many streams. So I'm just learning about that, and we were just saying how exactly like Paul said, how hard it is to sum up what we do, and not miss bits out, and make sure you know what you do and what to do. So it's very good.
And that fits in with what you do with events, so there's definitely some synergy going
so
on
I'm
there.
going to ask Paul to do my CV, I think. He said we spent in 2 minutes and I did myself. That's my downhill tool. talking now, and I just started talking to Sue about that. So, power of attorney and wills and how important they are.
There's still more for downhill then.
So there's plenty more, I think, for that. Thank you.
And Emma.
Okay, I guess I probably spoke to Sandra for quite a while. We were talking a bit about her coaching and how she goes about it and different methodologies you can use, but also how you don't necessarily have to work with a methodology. You can think outside the box and just apply whatever works for the coachee, whether it's an individual or a business. We were talking about schools and things like that. And then just as Paul said, we just sort of started talking towards the end, but we weren't really talking about business stuff. It was about tennis, and also I found out his daughter, 15-year-old, is an amazing singer-songwriter. So I'm like, oh, that's quite interesting. I'm sure there's lots of other interesting things about people that we could find out, but yeah, that's main stuff.
Thank you. And Liz.
I spoke to Sandra and Paul, and Sandra told me she had twin boys who are now 19. Oh, boy and a girl, sorry. 19. And she said something interesting, that when she had her twins, the actual mother and baby groups weren't necessarily that helpful. When she found one with twins, they were really helpful. And I think she said people were always saying, oh, you do it this way, you do that. She said, but with twins, so there's obviously different ways of doing things. And I think quite often some people do sound off about the right way to do things, don't they? And they don't necessarily know the story. So I think if you have twins, what you need is targeted advice about having twins, not people just with single children.
There's a business idea there.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think just to take that idea on as well, there's something there about how you can take ideas like the one that Liz has remembered from our conversation and take it into a business scenario, because just because someone has one experience in a business and that works doesn't mean that you can necessarily export that into another situation that's slightly different but got certain things that are the same, and it's actually going to work in exactly the same way. So I think that's interesting. And when Lee and I were walking up at one point, we were having a conversation and got onto the danger of making assumptions and drawing conclusions without having the full information. So I think that there are synergies there with those arguments as well. I was walking with Liz and with Emma, and I spoke to Paul as well, but if I pick on the conversation with Emma, just to add to what Emma was saying, one of the things we were talking about as well was using project management methodologies. People often think, oh, I've got to have agile, I've got to have Prince, I've got to have these qualifications. But we were talking about actually there are people who work on projects who don't need to be qualified to that level, and there are elements of each of those different ideas that you can take and use in your projects without having to study for those qualifications and get those qualifications.
Thank you. That's really helpful. It's just amazing how much you have actually picked up in what is half an hour, if that, coming up the hill, and how much you've learned about each other and how much I now know about everybody else, which is really great. And what's different about networking and netwalking is that we know that it's immediately broken down barriers. So we're not suited, we're not booted, we're walking side by side, which is much better because you're not face on with people, although we've formed a circle, which is quite unique. It's just a different way of networking, so I hope it's working for you, and I'd be really interested to hear about your feedback at the end of the day as to what it's done for you, apart from, you know, give you this lovely view when you could be indoors in your office or behind your computer. So thank you very much, and enjoy the walk down as well.
Thank you.
I mean, I would